People who work night shifts, what are some of the perks of it that no one talks about? Story 1, I work 312s weekend nights. Fry son. It means I have all the time I need with my kids during the week, and I don't pay for childcare. Also, my hospital pays a good bonus for night shift. So, more money, no childcare costs. The Sunday to Monday transition can be rough, though. Story 2. As a nurse, I love night shift. It's either Nutter City and it goes by fast, or it's chill and you can relax in between patients. As others have said, biggest perks are zero senior management running around micromanaging and making things worse. And traffic home is awesome. Story 3. People who work nights generally seem a little more chill than people who work day shift. The 9-5 perfect life soccer mom dad is at home because they work day shift, and the reject/rebel/hardcore night shifter is there for the shift nobody wants. It's a different kind of person. It's not for the faint of heart. That's a perk in itself because the people not strong enough to handle it will not be there for long. Also, along with management not being around, there's usually a lot less other staff. More time to get things done and focus on what really matters versus the fluff of day shift. Night shift is nitty and gritty, but necessary, honest, and real. All benefits in my opinion. Story 4. I work in healthcare, so I don't have to deal with management or family members most of the time. There is way less traffic going to work, and I can take my sweet time leaving and not hit traffic. I can go to the DRS at noon on a weekday and not miss work. Story 5. It's quiet. You don't really appreciate how loud the day is until you're awake all night, lots of nights in a row. And not just human stuff either, but all the natural stuff as well, that's never loud enough to be heard over the cars and the talking and the moving, but that your brain notices anyway. 3 a.m., I can hear things a mile away, easy, and it's so much easier to think without all that noise. Story 6. Working a traditional Montfrey 9-5 makes it very difficult to do anything that must be done during the week. Think renewing a driver's license, doctor's appointments, etc. When I'm on nights, I'm technically free Montfrey from 9-5, though obviously sleeping for most of that, so I can schedule stuff way easier than most people. Story 7. There are no downsides, if you ask me. Management is gone, far higher pay, far slower pace since no one's riding you. Grocery stores are deserted when I go after work at 7 a.m. I get a running excuse to decline invitations because they're almost always my sleeping hours. I personally don't suffer any ill effects from my weird sleeping hours. Probably will when I age. Way cooler co-workers, misfits, and people with interesting pasts work night shift. Story 8. Where I work, the shop is closed at night, so get to wear your own clothes, not the uniform. Smoke breaks whenever, as long as your work gets done. Along the same line, no scheduled breaks, just take them when you need them. Get to listen to music or audiobooks. The supervisors are pretty chill and are more like mates than bosses. You can come in anytime to do shopping, even though we close at 10 p.m., as long as the shop isn't fully shut like on Xmas. No mandatory overtime or overtime in general, as it's too expensive to pay us. Only been asked to work overtime once in a year and a bit of working here, and got 12 tidaladi, 33 tekti, 5 for unsociable hours and overtime. If you get all the work done, then you can leave early, as we're not trained to do day shifts job. So there's nothing for us to do except stand around. But TBH, this is the only proper night shift job I've worked, so it might just be my store that's like this. Story 9. Less people at work, which means a more relaxed and causal environment to work in. Also agree with the points of traffic and management going home. Also less things or tend to go wrong during the night compared to during the day, LOL. IDK, just from what I've experienced so far. Story 10. I honestly love night shift. There's no traffic and I really enjoy getting home at 5-6 a.m. because early morning is my favorite time of day. I walk my dog as the sun rises. Sometimes I work out, and sometimes I just bury myself in blankets on the couch and have a drink. I'm not a big people person, so it suits me to be up when all the people are still sleeping. Story 11. As everyone else has mentioned, traffic is amazingly quiet both ways to work. Less management around, I was the manager, means cruisy atmosphere. Ran a tight ship, so to speak, and let the production crew do what they needed to do. Frequent smoko breaks as long as no one complained, and their quality output was good. I got through ridiculous amounts of movies and TV shows in my office. The crew didn't have me micromanaging them and just called me if they needed anything, which I was straight on to. I do walk-arounds, of course, to check on things, and then straight back to media. It was great and couldn't be achieved on day shift. Also, the money was better. Extra $20K annually helped out the bank account when I needed it, and I didn't mind being nocturnal. Honestly, the only two downsides were that my social life took a hit for obvious reasons, and sometimes noise outside would keep me up during the day instead of sleeping. Story 12. I had a friend while studying who was doing watchman/guard service at night in several places and in a period of time in the mall downtown. which had a lot of food and beverage outlets and retails, culinary shops, food court and such. I often joined him on his watch just for fun, nothing better to do. He and the other guys were free to use the training center as much as they wanted, and all the food outlets had cleaned up, or were by the time they met for the shift, and they had put out all sorts of delicacies for them. We lived like kings every night, noodles and soft drink, ice cream, chocolate, snacks and crisps, and large baskets of fruits from the juicer shop. It was not uncommon that 2-3 guys and I would feast throughout the night to end up filling a garbage bag of trash after us. At first, it was because the food was going to be thrown out anyway, but over time, they made deliberate servings for us. I got to talk to a lot of the cooks in the evening before they went home, and they learned what we liked. And even in the daytime when we dropped by, we could often get a free lunch. There's really something about night shift if you get to have such relations with the day people. Story 13. When you say night shift, do you swing shift from around 4 p.m. to midnight, or do you mean graveyard or overnight? For swing shift, the main benefit is you have plenty of time to deal with doctor's appointments and anything else where you deal with businesses open 9-5 Monday through Friday. If you work 9-5, dealing with this stuff usually means using your sick time and/or PTO. I haven't worked a ton of graveyard shifts, but I hated them when I did because you're literally running on a different schedule from most of the rest of the world. If you live in a city, swings or graves probably aren't too bad because there is a whole subculture of people who work the same shifts. You can lead a pretty normal life, including a social life. In a small town, it can be pretty isolating because there aren't usually a lot of people working similar shifts, and many social hangouts are going to be closed when you're off. If you need childcare, it can be hard to find. Story 14 can just avoid all the bull, like it's such a nice break. I do a shift and then come home at like 6 a.m. I've not got any notifications overnight because everyone's asleep. I don't have to reply to emails or do anything. There's no drama, no gossip. Overnight I'm at work and that's all I have to deal with. I then go to sleep at say 0730 and I sleep through the entire day. Noon's speaking to me, noon's asking me stuff. I don't have to deal with crowds of people or make decisions. If the phone rings, I'm asleep so I don't answer. Friends and family know I'm asleep so don't expect any replies or anything from me. Also, I live alone now, but when I lived with an SO, it's just chilled out. I come in from work in the morning and maybe see her for a bit as she's getting up for work. Then I go to sleep and have an empty, quiet house to myself. When I wake up, she's usually still out, so I get up when I want, eat whenever I want, slob out on the sofa watching Bull TV, then head into work. I actually prefer doing night shifts, especially now that I'm single. It almost just lets you vanish off the face of the earth for a few days, which now we live in this bull world of constant, inescapable social media, and contactability is a really nice change. Story 15. No traffic, generally more casual vibe, better conversations with colleagues. Everyone becomes who they really are late at night. Usually less annoying busy work and email answering. You'll lose weight because fewer food options. Nicer weather if you live somewhere hot. I miss nights. Story 16. I've worked night shifts 6+ years straight now. No management breathing down your neck. Going to work and coming home is a breeze. On weekends when I party, I can outlast everyone since I'm used to staying up all night. Can hit the gym before work, which is usually before rush hour traffic at the gyms. When going to work, I can buy dinner food for my breakfast. When off work, I can buy breakfast food for my dinner. Lots of perks. Only downfall is I barely get to enjoy the sun since I sleep most of the day. And it's impossible for me to fix my sleep schedule back to day life when I have time off, so I don't bother. Can't complain with night shifts, since I also get 15% premium for working night shifts. Story 17. I'm at work right now. You see what I'm doing? I'm sitting here eating Cheetos and typing an answer to a question on Reddit. There's nobody here. I could strip off my shirt and smear orange Cheeto dust on my chest and nobody would even know. I get paid to work a 10-hour shift and actually only work for about 2 hours. Story 18. For me, I find my workplace more peaceful, and my commute is much nicer. Except concert days, my work is near our local arena, so traffic to work sucks those days. I also get 1.60 shift premium for working nights, and my coworkers and I organized a pizza night every 2 weeks among ourselves, which apparently gets frowned upon on day shift. One manager feels it's unfair to everyone else, I guess. Because my schedule is split into a 2-2-3 rotating shift, my days off feel more fulfilling than when I work day shift. Probably just how I feel about it, though. Story 19. I'm mostly solo at work. For the first couple hours, I have to deal with those people. Then once they leave, I can actually get done the needful. I put in maybe 4 or so hours of work to get the place ready for the following day. And then it's mostly security and minor touch-ups. This job is a hell of a lot better than my previous job of night shift at a 24-hour convenience store. I'm done with customer service and dealing with strung-out crackheads and the risks of being shot over a dispute as to why the state has a cutoff time for alcohol. Oh, at the job I'm currently at, once management goes home, I get to use the executive bathroom. It's a lot cleaner and smells nicer than the employee bathroom. Story 20. Overnight trucker here. The peace and quiet. You have plenty of time to concentrate and plan out your next move in life. Some people have a hard time being alone with their thoughts. I'm not one of them. Being a trucker has greatly improved my decision-making abilities. Story 21. I used to work the graveyard shift when my kids were in grade school. Most days I'd sleep while they were at school, but if they had something going on, needed to come home sick, or needed a chaperone for a field trip, I could go and didn't have to ever deal with asking for time off work. I feel like I got to spend a lot more time with my kids than if I'd been working a 9-5 and had to commute home afterwards. Story 22, never sitting in traffic. Being able to drink while everyone goes to work. The straight-up funniest thing I've ever experienced is being on the GO train, high-speed inner-city train between Johannesburg and Pretoria, at 6 a.m., 10 beers, a joint, and a gummy down, and people were heading to work while I was on my way to find dinner and crawl into bed. Everyone was so morbid and serious, and I was enjoying watching their suffering. Story 23, I live in Eastern Europe, but my company is based in the States, so I work on New York time. The area where I live is very centralized in downtown, and sometimes when I go on walks in the middle of the night, it's safe enough here to do that. I feel like the city is mine in a way. During the day, it's overrun with tourists and people, but at night, I essentially have it to myself. I remember I took a walk at 5 a.m. on Christmas morning and got to see the fresh snow tracks that hadn't been stepped on at all. It was marvelous and a good way to start the holidays. Story 24. Quiet. No boss in the immediate area. Also, because I was night shift security, I didn't have to deal with the highly toxic corporate culture as much as the daywalkers. And because it was my job to comb around through the place, I knew months before everyone else that we were getting downsized and they were automating our shift. Our own boss wrote a report on how much the company could save on our salaries, and the senior VP left it front and center on his desk for weeks. I told one of my co-night shift people because he was planning on mortgaging the house his grandpa left him for an addition because the company lied to him and told him his job was safe, and he went straight to our boss demanding answers, and I was fired immediately. Story 25. As someone that goes shopping at Walmart past 9 p.m., you get to see some crazy. Highlights include a guy with an entire cart full of gallons of milk. Family owned a daycare bought for kids. Woman buying 69 avocados. I asked, and she owned a Mexican restaurant and was making a ton of guacamole. People bringing their emotional support pets, ferret, cats, etc. Story 26. My husband does rotating shifts. He works nights for 2 weeks straight and then is on days for about 3-4 weeks. He said the best thing about nights is the lack of traffic, especially coming home, and all the quiet time he gets. On the nights when he's off but still on night rotation, he says staying up all night in the comfort of our home is really peaceful, and he plays games most of the night since all the kids are bed. Story 27, so many reasons. Firstly, it's cooler in the summer. I worked near equipment that had to be 210 degrees Fahrenheit, and we opened the doors, and with the poor AC and open doors to APX 70-80 F temp outside, it was nice. Also in the summer, you go to work when the darkness begins and leave work when the sun comes up, so you have plenty of time to do whatever you want that requires light during that time. No upper management. This one was a big one too, as we couldn't open doors if management was on premises. Not to mention, we didn't have to clean every 30 minutes to keep management happy. I also worked swing shift, and we had to do the same till around 5 p.m. when management left and then all the doors opened up. Also in one building, breaks were kind of monitored. Essentially, upper management would come in, see you on break, come back 20 minutes later, coffee runs, and still see you there when lunch is only 20 minutes. So some assholes will report it and you get in trouble. However, all supervisors, leads, lower management know it's easier where I work to take a 10 minutes break and a 30 minutes lunch versus 10, 20, 10. So we still work the same hours, maybe even more, because shutting down the machines for the last break adds 5, 10 extra minutes. And if you run through breaks, the last worker taking the break is taking it sub 1 hour from end of shift. Stupid TBH. TLDR, no upper management, longer breaks, less drama. Lastly, but kind of ties in with the second reason, peace and quiet, no drama, no hey, management needs X. In one area, all the machines are off, so it was just quiet. Less workers on night shifts, so the break rooms had more room to relax in. All of this is dependent on your workplace. I know this is off subject, but the one and only con is simply FS with your sleeping schedule. After 2 years of night shift 20 years ago, I still stay up way too late despite the fact I have to get up at 4 a.m. Story 28. I work 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., and went off at 5 a.m., work from home. I'm asleep by 5:15. 7.5 hours of sleep, of course need the darkened room, blackout curtains, etc. I wake up at 1 p.m. and the afternoon is mine. I live in a northern state, so it's glorious to be able to get out this time of year and get some sunshine on your face before it gets dark by 4:30 p.m. Errands are a breeze as nobody is out and about early afternoon. If I had a normal job, even working from home, in the winter it's dark when going to work and dark when getting home. To heck with that. Story 29. I've worked second shift in a manufacturing plant for 20 years. Some of best perks are that I haven't had to wake up to an alarm outside of appointments, except I went back to school fall semester 2024, so I have to get up to go to class now. And there's never management here to bother me. I come in, do my job, and go home. The biggest downside is it can be pretty isolating. My team is very small, literally one person per shift now. I work evenings, 2:30 p, 11 p, so the majority of social life is non-existent. There are people in the building where I work, but my work area is a secure area, and I rarely leave unless I need parts or have another reason to. Story 30. I used to work 12-hour continentals at an aluminum foundry. Loved the night shift. Office staff were all gone, so the management wasn't wandering through all the time. It felt, more so in the winter when it was dark, like trying to describe this season. Like it was just night versus day shift coming in the dark, then going through the morning, afternoon, and then into evening when it got dark again. It just felt shorter and went by faster. And I'd go home and go straight to bed and sleep until about 1 p.m. and get up feeling like I actually had time to do things versus working from 7:20 to 7:20 and getting home at 8 p.m. and not being able to do anything. Story 31. Commuting outside rush hour. Not working during the day means you can easily make appointments during business's banker hours without conflict. Depending on the job, night shifts can be chiller and more relaxed. Night crews tend to be smaller, so you can often build better relationships with your coworkers. Story 32. Currently at work, 3 a.m. RN, and it's just chill. Where I work, it's a known thing that the people on nights are here to work and the people on days are here to get paid. Less big wigs hovering. That, and it's way more convenient. Doctor's appointment? Sure, I can wake up an hour early and be there at 1. Gets me in a week earlier. I go to the chiropractor regularly and never have to worry about taking off work for it. Want to go swimming in the summer? Let me stay up a couple hours late and get there before the kids even wake up. Car frosted over in the morning? No problem. I have nowhere to be but home ATP. Car takes a while to warm up? You start work at the warmest part of the day. The only downside is getting a sleep schedule set up takes a while and is super easy to mess up. That in the summer is brutal because you're coming in at the peak of the heat with no real acclimation. Story 33. I miss my night shifts very much because I worked to the beat of my own drum and finished work without Team MGMT pressure. Except I could not for the life of me get accustomed to the daytime sleep schedule. I slept a couple of hours before every shift and felt crazy. I generally need 8 HRS of sleep. Story 34. Interesting people, bartenders, wait staff, and strippers would work out at my buddy's 24-hour gym after their shifts. That said, I recently moved to a small town and went to the local gas station store late at night and had a homeless guy say he had left a bomb in his missing duffel bag, and the guy standing next to me in line said he'd like to smoke some crack. Haven't been back at night ever since. Story 35. I used to work from around 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. in the 90s. What I did like was baseball. It's a great radio sport. And late-night talk shows. They were so much better than the daytime political ones. Quick drive home with zero traffic. But sometime Jack in the Box had a line since it was the only place open. Story 36. Not full night worker, but I did a late afternoon to early morning shift. What I miss is the time after work around 3 in the morning. The world asks nothing of you. You can't do any of the things on your list of things I need to do because nothing is open. You don't even have thoughts of, I really should do some laundry because you can't run the washer because other people are sleeping. I miss being able to truly shut down without that nagging voice in my head going off about stuff I should be doing or taking care of. Story 37. You get to work and the bosses are usually sleeping in their beds at home. You do what you can until they drag their groggy backsides in at 6 a.m. And if anything went wrong, you got 5 minutes to explain before you nope right out of there. Story 38. I've been working in the same facility and department for nearly 12 years. For at least 11 of those years, I have consistently worked 14 plus HR shifts. The easy OT to cover in gaps and lighter than usual traffic going home is nice. I'm also on a 4-10 schedule, so I pretty much always have 3-day weekends. As others have stated, it's just less busy and more laid back on nights. I pretty much know everyone on shift in the building. I've been here on days before, and the difference in foot traffic is insane to the point of being slightly uncomfortable. It felt like I hardly knew the place. I don't have to go in until late PM on Monday, so I never really have to worry about rushing home to get in bed Sunday night. I agree with Other on the night shift camaraderie. We are a pretty tight-knit group and work extremely well together. Story 39. Almost no management. Worked 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. for years. Really actually kind of messed me up pretty bad. I have a lot of problems sleeping normal hours, and my memories were of me being happy then working nights and feeling extremely isolated and alone. Dating life was terrible. I doubt I would ever do it again. Story 40. My experience has always had the hardest workers on night crew. Or my job is at a Jimmy John's. We're all college students going to the university, and the people I work with for night crew are hardworking MFs. They don't party. We're all focused on our jobs and schooling. No issue with the day crew people who are way more focused on partying and the fun of college, but there's a clear difference and it shows in work ethic. Story 41. I work 9, so I take full advantage of. Wake up when I feel like it, get plenty done outside of the weekend if I have a productive week. Management is usually out of the office by 4 p.m., so free reign to do my work as I please. Get to go to the GTM before after work, and it's usually not super busy. If I have a Friday off, it almost feels like 2 days off since I get my usual morning off plus an evening, afternoon, and night shift, loading $. There's cons too, like I'd love to play an evening sport or socialize more, but it's slowly becoming more of a positive to be on afternoons than a negative as I get older and more homely. Story 42. I agree with all of the lack of busybody managers and traffic, but the ability to get done without having to take a day off. Businesses typically work business hours, so getting appointments done usually means taking time off. Working a night just means missing a little sleep, and as an insomniac, I wasn't sleeping anyway. Story 43. You get to sleep the entire shift basically, but you have to find a way to get comfy in the computer chair cot, whatever you have at your expense. It sucks and isn't quality sleep for me, but at the end of the day, you piss away at least half the shift, which is great, plus I get night differential on top of my pay. And management's gone. Story 44, not one that no one talks about, but the thing I love the most about it is definitely the freedom of doing stuff. Getting groceries, going to the gym, etc., before it gets crowded everywhere. Same goes for working weekends and having time off during the week. Story 45, been doing it for 20 plus years. Perks are no big bosses at night, less traffic, in my case always going against it. Don't miss work for dentist, doctor's appointments. Less people out during the day when you run errands. Bank, groceries, Costco, and you can take kids to and from school. Story 46, personally hate midnight overnight shifts but adore afternoon shifts. You still get a shift premium as you're leaving when everyone else is getting into bed. Less traffic, more natural sleep pattern, IMO. It's a little worse now post-COVID as stores never went back to 24/7s, but I still prefer the afternoon world. Story 47, you can always schedule appointments. Day shifters have to take time off for a doctor's appointment, but us night shifters just have to wake up earlier and get a little less sleep. I normally go to bed at 6 a.m., but when I have a dentist appointment, I go to bed early at 3 a.m., wake up at 7 a.m., get home at 10 a.m., and sleep till 2 p.m. It's still 8 hours, just a little choppy. Story 48. I honestly liked working nights, but the overall lack of health, social life, and career growth really weighed on me after a few months. Just felt like a shell of what I should have been, wasn't really dead, but I might as well have been. I found myself wanting to leave primarily because I felt like I got overlooked for promotions and general project updates. Pros: get to sleep in, commute is relaxed, work is relaxed, too relaxed. No one to micromanage or oversee you also means no one to help you. Excuse to leave evening socials early. Your weekend is Sunday, Monday. Cons: an alternative sleep schedule messes with your social life. Family just thinks you're a bum for sleeping in. Minimal career exposure and growth. Reinforces a really bad health habit. It's just harder to keep any healthy routines. You don't get Friday nights off. Morning shift has absolutely no respect for your sleep. Really depends on the managers, but regardless, they always need to call you during their working hours. No one really gives a about you. Always have to go about your day knowing you have work at the end. Really bad anxiety about it. Like I would hang out with friends, they're all winding down from their jobs, and I'm skimming through my emails making sure the day shift didn't throw some last-minute work on me. Story 49. I worked night shift for years and honestly loved it, for all the reasons people have mentioned. When I came off of it after 10 plus years, I immediately missed the perks of going to the shops, appointments in the day, skipping peak hour traffic, extra pay, etc., but I slowly realized none of that was worth my mental health. The benefits of sleeping a regular 7-8 hours at night and waking up the same time every day, seeing the morning sun and the sunset after work, Being able to socialize after work, eating regular meals throughout the day, not spending my days off sleeping, etc., worked wonders for me. I loved night shift, but it wasn't sustainable for me personally, and nothing could make me do it again. Story 50. Been a while since I worked nights, not quite night shift, but late close at a pizza shop. There's something about getting sweaty, scrubbing floors at midnight, then stepping out into the freezing air at 2 a.m. with your coworkers and just saying bye and driving home. When a day shift ends, it's still a rush. You rush home to enjoy what's left of your day, run your errands, get to bed, etc. At 2 a.m., you are past time having meaning. When you're working nights, you kind of live a bit more in the moment. Story 51. I work 7P7A at an ER at a hospital. The fact that it is a slow time of day where the general public is asleep makes the job great. We get just the right amount of patients through the night to keep us awake. I live the graveyard shift. I'm a night owl. I know it's not for everyone. I myself am not a morning person at all. I have arthritis pretty bad in the morning, so it makes it hard to just wake up and go like I used to be able to do. So making it somewhere by 7 a.m. is virtually impossible for me. Edit to add, the 12-hour shifts allow me to only work 3.5 days of the week to meet full time, so I get a nice few days in a row off. Story 52. Many employees and bosses doesn't realize there's a night shift. So when winter come, they lower garage temp and it's cold for about 2 weeks before they get the message, and everything demands we have are long to get since we're not on the same shift as everyone. Story 53. If you're willing to sacrifice sleep, you can go to essentially any daytime social event that you're invited to because you never work when your friends want to have a BBQ or meet for dinner. I've even gone to a baseball game and then gone to work. It worked really well for me for years in my early 20s, and then one day I stopped being able to sleep more than 3 hours at a time, and so I got off night shift and can sleep again. Story 54, best schedule I ever had was, I had to be at work by 2 p.m. because that's when the day person left, but I would frequently come in at noon so I could leave earlier. I was young, so I could get off work early enough to hang with my friends if I wanted, but I also had the morning to run errands and stuff. Story 55. In my case, I work rotating shifts. Mostly days with the odd night once in a while. There's nothing to do on night shifts the vast majority of the time that can't be done within the first few hours, and they're worked alone. I bring a PS5 and play video games. As neat of a perk as that sounds like, having to reverse your day and night every week and a half for one day has some pretty negative downsides and isn't worth it. Story 56. Being able to have doctor, dental, vision, etc. appointments without having to take time off from work for them. Don't think I am one to not use PTO time either. I just prefer to use it how I see fit, not for stuff like that. I do a 2 weeks rotation of 2 weeks days, then 2 weeks nights, so I schedule everything when I am on night shift. Story 57. I started working third shift for the first time this year after being a first shifter for 15 years. Here are a few of my favorite things about it. I experience more daylight during my off hours than I ever have working first shift. I used to get home at 5:36 p.m., and soon, if it isn't already, it will get dark out. Now, when I get home at about 6:37 a.m., the rest of all my waking hours are daylight. Businesses are open too. Getting to an appointment or my car to a shop that closes at 5 p.m. was impossible without missing work. Now I can just schedule early morning appointments and do anything any day I want. Sometimes there are businesses that open at 10:11 a.m., which sucks because that is close to bedtime, but it's doable. The people are all a little bit more laid back, chill with more colorful personalities. Less important people are at my job on third shift as well. Things aren't so strict. Breakfast food is what is served when I get done with work. I'm a huge fan of breakfast food and eating out. Breakfast for dinner always sounds good to me. My favorite part is being paid $2-3 more for simply being third shift. Story 58. I was an editor, 1990s, and worked 2 p.m. to 1 a.m. shifts supporting late-breaking news in Miami. After work, everybody would go to the 1800 Club next door, a place that gave out free breakfast because of some liquor rule nobody understood. Sometimes we go to this place in Alapata called Nana's, which was basically somebody's backyard with a band and a bar set up. Good times. And then I'd get up and take sailing lessons when everybody else was at work. Story 59. As someone who was on nights for 10 years, nobody on the road usually coming home from work. It's safer driving at night and less traffic. My favorite thing about night shift. I used to do all my shopping at 3 a.m. when grocery stores were 24 HRs. Looking at you, Walmart. This one just depends on what you have available. You can still go to the doctor, government buildings pretty easily. You might lose a few hours sleep getting up early for it or staying up late, but you don't have to schedule time off to see a doctor most of the time. If your friends are also on nights, it's a lot easier to hang out with them since everybody has gotten their priorities done earlier in the day. Management on nights is usually non-existent or just much more relaxed. But to be honest, After swapping to day shift, I wouldn't ever go back to nights. You overall feel healthier and happier on day shift, at least in my experience. Story 60. Smaller work crews, no upper management. The night shift is usually just a bunch of chill Red Bulls / monster-powered night owls. Shopping in the early morning is nice. Getting to go to bed when the sun's coming up and getting that sweet morning sleep in also feels like you get to the weekend faster, even though you don't actually. The downside for me is long-term. It had negative effects on my mental health, and I started falling asleep on my feet. Living situation didn't allow me for more than 2-3 hours of sleep a day, so that was the cause of it. Story 61. I've been driving semi for 16 years, the last 5 at night. I should have done it sooner. Traffic is minimal and I don't have to deal with other vendors or receivers. Third shift crews get me unloaded quickly because they have to finish the load by morning. It's pretty much stress-free, except the snow where it's just me and the plows. Story 62. There's a whole other parallel universe out there that you tap into when you get out early in the morning. My night shift was 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. Empty streets, all-night diners, after-hours clubs, walking into the grocery store right as it opens and it's totally empty. Winding down your day with a beer as the sun comes up. I used to kayak at dawn as my pre-bedtime routine. Story 63. I worked nights for a hotel, and most of the time it was chill. I could do my work and learn anything I wanted or just read a book. Once I was off, I could sleep the part of the day when my friends worked and then hit them up for dinner or just hang out for a bit so I didn't miss a social life. Story 64. I've been working nights for a few months now. My favorite perk is the freedom during normal business hours. Not just for errands, which I think most people focus on, but the freedom to do fun weekend activities any day of the week. Most of the time, those activities are more enjoyable on a weekday as my favorite places are quieter or tickets for events are cheaper. Everyone's time is limited. You should enjoy yourself. I find that's been much easier since working nights. Story 65. I used to work as a security guard for a security company as a floater, and those were easy. A lot of times they would give me 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. Those last 3 hours are pretty brutal, but honestly, most of the time I got to just chill and relax, watch the movies and stuff like that. Nothing serious ever happened. There was one time I was working at the local mall for a Microsoft store that was opening up, and for about 3 weeks it was just me and a local painter doing the walls, and he says, "Hey, if you want to take a nap, I'll wake you up before I leave before anyone comes in." Not all heroes wear capes, and he's a perfect example. Story 66. Worked alternating day-night blocks in the IT knock at a large UK finance company. Day shift was always manic. Nights, on the other hand, were chill AF. Our only real responsibility was to monitor the overnight batch processing jobs and ensure the subsequent backups completed without issues. I was the shift lead, and we'd take our laptops in and just watch movies or play games to kill the time. As long as the monitoring checks didn't get missed, I didn't really mind what people did. Breaks was on an honor system too. If you were flagging and wanted to go kip in your car for an hour, crack on. Just don't take the piss by disappearing for 4 hours. Cons. First night shift was always a slog to get through because invariably I'd have struggled to sleep during the day, especially in summer. Sleeping in the day during the summer was always a pain. You'd have to keep curtains and windows shut to keep the light and noise out. After your last night shift in the rotation, you'd have to force yourself to stay awake most of the following day, otherwise you'd struggle to sleep the following night. It sometimes played havoc with your social life if you happened to be working on weekends. Also, our department was 24/7, 365, so working Xmas Day was also a thing. Pros, traffic was always going in the other direction when traveling to or from a night shift. Having weekdays off to do your own was always brilliant. Any appointments or personal stuff like that you could just arrange for your off days and not have to take time off work for. I always used to keep my golf clubs in the car during summer, and after my last night shift in rotation, I'd go play a full 18 on the way home if the weather was good. By the time I'd finished that, I usually didn't feel tired anymore and could just go home and chill. To summarize, 8/10 would work nights again. Story 67. I'm on Arvo into night shift, 2-4 p.m. starts. So a bit different from graveyard, but having started playing golf, my answer is playing midweek golf. It's cheaper, quieter, and it feels like a day of leisure during a workday. In the same vein, it can apply to most things that are day activities. Going to the beach, exercise with the sun up without waking up at stupid hours, going on a hike, grocery shopping, and other everyday errands that have time of day constraints are easy AF. Getting a good meal in before work. Can go to a proper restaurant or get lunch menus at fast food if you'd like. Again, midweek so you don't worry about crowds or a bull weekend surcharge that my country loves. As for the work, no upper management is around and the group is pretty chill compared to the high-strung, constantly stressing that happens during a standard shift. Story 68. In retail, I work a few overnight shifts each month, and that's when I truly excel. There are no customers around, no interruptions with questions, and no need to ring people up while juggling other tasks. All I have to do is restock and organize the shelves, listen to music with one headphone in, and then head home at sunrise to sleep and be left alone. Story 69. It's typically slower and much more relaxed depending on the job. There probably isn't a manager really breathing down your neck, and there isn't going to be a whole lot of pressure from customers, the public, to look busy. If you're somebody who really needs busy work to get through the shift, you're better off not on third. But if you can entertain yourself, it's a pretty okay gig, at the cost of having a reverse schedule from the status quo. Story 70. Just the peace and quiet. I did a short stint where I worked overnights, think like between 10 p.m., 3 or 4 a.m., cleaning up an event hall for a state park. It was set back in the woods, so very quiet, and I could just turn on my music and jam out while I cleaned. At the end of the night, the local security officer would escort me to my car and made sure I'd drive off safely before leaving. Yeah, it was cleaning work, but it was so nice just being able to follow my checklist without waiting for people to move out of the way or being stopped every few minutes. Story 71. Things are quieter. Less people are there, less management, less expectations. Everyone is just pretty chill and works their shift, as opposed to a higher energy environment from managers trying to look good in front of their bosses. Also, no traffic on the way to work is nice. Kinda sucks when you want to go to dinner, though. You basically wake up at dinner time. If you want proper dinner food at what feels like dinner for you, you have to make your own, since only breakfast places are open in the morning. Story 72. I used to work weekend night shift for a home health service. The I've fallen and I can't get up service. I worked by myself on those nights. I brought with me my laptop, PlayStation, movies, and did almost nothing. Seriously. It was nighttime, so most of our clients were asleep. No coworkers were there. By law, the phones had to be answered, so I had to be there, but I couldn't be assigned busy work that took me away from the phone. Story 73. To me, third shift graveyard is the best in nearly every way, and I miss it so much. Less management, less traffic. I got to grocery shop with the old ladies and soccer moms. I could adjust my sleep to accommodate appointments and obligations, seldomly needed an alarm clock, used less PTO, and you usually make a bit more money. I would say the only notable downside is it's not great for getting promoted. You're working in the night, and the day shift treats the work that got done like magical elves did it as they slept. As the management working nights is usually the tired old boss with one foot out the door, or the boss that's a walking HR nightmare. Neither one is going to go out of their way to sing your praises to the higher-ups. Story 74. No having to juggle a schedule to have to do daytime things. I worked days in a job where it was difficult to get any time off during the week. My work hours were literally longer than my doctor's office was open every day. I would have to rush straight from work to do any banking or to get a car inspection just before closing. If I had to do something in person at the post office, I would multitask when I went to the post office for work. I was once forced to sneak away from work for an hour to renew my driver's license. I was caught and luckily only had to stay late to make up the time. Working overnights, I would have all day to handle business. Story 75. I used to work overnights and had off Wed Thursday nights, Mon and Tues. I would do my grocery shopping in the morning right at 6, 7 when nobody was out. I do really well sleeping 2 times a day, so I would normally sleep something like 8 a.m. to 1 a.m., then another hour or two before I went into work at 10 p.m. This gave me a full afternoon if I wanted it. If I wanted to be lazy, I could sleep in and not feel bad. Since I had off from 6 a.m. Wed morning until 10 p.m. Friday night, I felt like I had a 3-day weekend every week. The downsides. I had to leave early most nights when I was playing PC games with friends. I like to see live music, so I'd have to take a day off if I wanted to go to a show.